Okay, welcome. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, United States of America. This is a message from down under, a little place called New Zealand, and I'm grateful for Dennis and his team for being able to speak with you for a short time this afternoon. My name is Owen Jennings, and I'm a former farmer. I farmed on the west coast of the South Island of New Zealand, which is a small, narrow farming strip, not mainstream agriculture. But we were dairy farmers with 300 milk cows, and we raised about 700 or 800 beef animals as well. Then I joined a Christian group, to go farming on the other side of the South Island in Canterbury, on irrigated land that had been a sheep farming property. We converted that into 3 dairy farms, and those farms were sold and the proceeds went to Christian work overseas. So I'm familiar with the farming scene and have traveled to the United States many times, have a great appreciation for your country, for your people, and particularly love your history. The history of the setting up of your nation, which is quite unique in the world and is something that you ought to be very proud of. My farming days took me into farming politics, and I eventually became the national president of what we call Federated Farmers, which is the equivalent of your farmers' union in your country, and did a presidency for 3 years. I then went into the New Zealand Parliament and was elected a member of Parliament for 6 years, with the express purpose of trying to assist agriculture in New Zealand. We had a number of boards that were set up in the early 1920s to help agriculture, and they'd really outlived their usefulness, and so it was important to change the laws and legislation around those. That was a pretty interesting time. Obviously, the hurly-burly of politics isn't everybody's cup of tea, and I didn't particularly enjoy parts of it, but we fundamentally achieved what we set out to do. Being a Christian in politics and being overtly Christian is difficult in New Zealand. We're a much more secular country than you are in the US. Sadly, we tend to be more in opposition of Christian ministry, Christian work, and Christians, and that's a sad state of affairs. We want to change that, and one of the ways we want to change that is through the work that Dennis has very wonderfully started here in New Zealand by having a presence at various field days and agricultural events, and he's done a magnificent job in setting up the Fellowship of Christian Farmers at several of our major events that we have in the calendar year. And New Zealand Christian farmers are grateful for his work, his persistence. It's never been easy, but we now have a situation where we have a presence at our national field days, which are held in our winter in June, and then in 5 or 6 other events which are more regionally based. And we have a typical kind of stand that you would be familiar with at many of your county fairs, where we have a group of Christians greeting people, using the walking stick, using pamphlets, and generally trying to introduce people to the Christian experience, and that's been very successful. We've also, at Dennis's encouragement, been seeking to set up funding for the New Zealand Fellowship, and we're in the process of putting together a funding base that will allow us to proceed on to the future and meet the costs of running our operation here. Besides spreading the gospel through this means and encouraging Christian farmers to be involved in missions, One of the major issues facing New Zealand, and not dissimilar to your country, is the amount of stress that farmers are facing at the moment. It's partly a factor of overseas prices. Most of our produce in New Zealand is exported. We are big exporters to Europe, to the United States, to China, parts of Asia. In fact, 90% of everything we produce is exported. So we're very vulnerable when export prices move around, particularly when they fall, obviously. But besides that, there are a number of things happening in our country which are very concerning and impacting on farmers. We've unfortunately decided to go down the route of trying to restrict emissions of CO2, and that's already having a damaging effect on farmers' viability. And will do so more and more as the impact of the changes come to roost, because our fuel prices are going to go sky high. We're just facing a number of costs, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on farmers. So we need, as Christians, to be in the community, ready to help people who can't cope with the pressure that kind of financial burden brings. And the Fellowship of Christian Farmers is an ideal vehicle for doing that, as you well know, and we want to be well armed, well equipped, and able to meet the pressure that comes from that particular sector. So that's where we're at. We're enormously grateful for the support that's come from the United States, from farmers who have helped, supported the organisation, come down to New Zealand and been part of the field days. That's a wonderful help and a great foundation for us to build on. So we're going to pick up the baton now and move forward. We've got a number of farmers around New Zealand who are keen to be involved, and we look forward to continuing the relationship with you as an outpost here on the other side of the globe.
Well, Owen, Janet and I have been so blessed that it seems like about every time we'd get to New Zealand, we'd either see at the beginning of our trip or at the end, and sometimes beginning and end, and just reflecting on what transpired. And so please send give our greetings to Doreen. And anyway, it's just thrilling that the Lord has had our paths cross in so many ways. And then I don't remember what year it was you were at our national conference in Michigan, or Shipshewana, maybe? Indiana?
Shipshewana, yes.
And was that about 2007 or 2008? Does that sound right?
Yeah, maybe a bit later than that, but yes, it was a great visit and a meeting so many wonderful farmers. It was a great experience, one that I will never forget.
Well, anyway, thank you so much for picking up that baton and you know, taking the lead to get the Fellowship of Christian Farmers in New Zealand rolling, and even doing more things to encourage people and share the gospel. And so it's a wonderful opportunity, and praise the Lord.
Well, we're looking forward to it, and we really would crave your continuing prayer support. If you've got a little opportunity to put into your prayer life New Zealand and the Fellowship of Christian Farmers down here, we'd be grateful. We love the fact that you've taken an interest in us, and particularly the work of Dennis and Janet, who's travelled, so amazingly, considering the health issues she faces. We're just forever grateful for what she and Dennis have done, and we want to build on that now. And we're just grateful to you for the opportunity to catch up today. God bless you all, and keep that great country of yours in good shape. We need you. The Western world has never needed a stronger America than what it needs right now.
Amen. Well, Owen, thank you so much, and we're going to be praying for all that's going on in New Zealand, and praying that we can have more and more New Zealand farmers come to America. Now they can fly direct to Chicago, and then we can have more American farmers fly to New Zealand and cultivate friendships there. So thank you so much for taking the time to be on our message here today.
Well, God bless you all.